Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I do some SEO keyword research and how I actually figure out if that keyword is going to be profitable for what I'm trying to do on Etsy. And essentially what I'm trying to do is find keywords that generally have lower competition, and I'm going to use the whiteboard to explain this, lower competition, but higher search volume. Okay, and so when I say lower competition, what I generally mean is as low competition as possible with as much high search volume as possible. Typically, what I like to do is I like to compare keywords, right, and see which one is going to be the best for me. And I want to just kind of explain that keywords are ever changing on Etsy. Okay, there are sometimes listings that disappear, there are sometimes listings that generally get better, and there's always kind of a change in the landscape of Etsy for any keyword, because at the end of the day there's always new sellers and there's always new listings, right? And so generally there are an open market for what we call low competition, high search volume keywords. Now, when we say high search volume, there is a caveat to that. Keep in mind that what we're generally looking for is we're looking for higher search volume than if we were to go with other keywords, right? So this is relatively subjective, okay, as opposed to the competition, which is relatively objective. Okay, I want you guys to be aware of that. So when we refer to low competition, we're not comparing low competition to others. We generally know if it's low or not, and I'll show you guys exactly how to do that. So typically before you start, selling things on Etsy, you're typically going to have an idea of what you're going to sell, right? It might be a t-shirt, it might be a sticker, it might be a digital file, it might be a rug, it might be a hoodie, whatever it might be, right? You have a general idea. Now what I want you to do is I want you to think of what do you plan on selling? Like, what can you sell? If it's a digital file, what kind of digital files you're going to sell? What kind of, if it's a rug, what kind of rug you're going to sell? Because at the end of the day, let's say I'm selling this rug. I can give this 50 different names, and depending on what names I give it or what lead keyword I give it, this is an important thing too. What lead keywords are extremely important on Etsy because Etsy is going to take that very, very heavily into the SEO gameplay. Okay, something you want to be aware of with Etsy is that the lead keyword are the keywords entitled within, or they're what fit in your title. Okay, that's very, very important. And so your lead keyword is going to set the standard for what kind of sales you're going to be looking at. And if I have 50 different keywords, for example, and I attribute one of those keywords to the listing 50 different times, I'm going to have different results every single time. Okay. And there is no shortage of customers on Etsy, but there is, not all essentially niches are built equally. Okay, so what do? Is I like to hop in here on my Sales Samurai software, and if you guys need to access this software, you guys can get 20% off using my discount code. You guys can click the link in the description box down below. That will take you to the software, but it will also take you to a page that I have personally created. Not only does it include a few blogs, but it includes a few videos, and it's actually going to be consistently being added to around Etsy content on there. And it's got videos, it's got links and all kinds of free content and free resources for you to use to be a master at Etsy. But with that being said, what I'm learning with Etsy very specifically over, because what I like to do is when I get deep into something, I really go really, really intense with it. And so what I like to do is if I'm going to cover a certain keyword, I want to see the general form of that keyword on Etsy. So what I did here was I typed in on the basic search, I typed in the word tiger, and I get a deep understanding of everything that's going on around that keyword. So the first thing I like to look at is sometimes I like to look at my Google CPC. And what Google CPC just generally means is the cost per click. Now keep in mind that Etsy is what we call a microclimate compared to Google. So if I was to just refresh this page, okay, if Google is this, right, Etsy is this, okay? And the reason why I say that is because what we typically tend to see is a scaled down approach in terms of traffic from Google to Etsy. And at the end of the day, Google is the largest search engine in the universe or in the world, right? And Etsy is a smaller version. Now, is it very large, Etsy? Absolutely. But we have another example of another microclimate is Redbubble, right? Redbubble is even smaller than Etsy, about 7 times to 8 times smaller, right? So what we have is these microclimates. Etsy happens to be a microclimate of Google, and really what that means is that everything on Google will be more amplified than on Etsy. And what I like to do is I like to look at these Google CPCs to understand the value of a particular keyword. When there is more money, that's essentially higher cost per click per keyword. That means the value of the keyword, or that keyword itself, is more valuable financially, meaning companies are targeting these keywords more to make more money. So that might be something you want to be aware of, okay? And something you want to look for is if a keyword has a higher CPC than normal with low Google competition. This is something you want to be aware of as well, because your Etsy listing can start driving traffic from Google. Okay, and Google is just one of the many aspects to get traffic to your Etsy store, right? You can use social media, you can go fully organic, and when I say organic, I mean when people go on Etsy and they type in a certain word in the search bar, right? They can search something on Google and find your link. There's different ways that you can go ahead and do this, but to understand SEO for Etsy in its, beginner level here, is that we have to look at also our Etsy search volume. Etsy search volume plays a role as well when we're picking a keyword. So we want to find a good hybrid of a keyword that contains some Etsy search volume. We want to find a high CPC, and high CPCs are generally not a requirement, especially if you're a first-time seller. If you're a first-time seller, I would say just look for the Etsy search volume. Click-through rates is something that you're going to want to be aware of as well. And typically what that means is that what is a click-through rate? Is that when I search for a certain keyword on Etsy and I click on a certain product, that is a click-through, okay? Not everybody ends up clicking through. Okay, and generally what you're going to tend to see is that when a keyword is more general, like the word tiger, okay, when a keyword is more general and there's less, essentially focus on that specific keyword, it will have a lower click-through rate than something that's more focused. So for example, here we have tiger eyes, right? Tiger eye is a certain kind of stone, all right? And look at the click-through rate. It's almost double all of the others, okay? It's about 24.81. That's a certain kind of stone. Everybody's kind of aware of what that is. It's not like they're going to sell the eyeballs of a tiger. But when we see here Tiger Team or Tigers Basketball, that could mean a wide variety of things. It could be Tigers Basketball logos. It could be Tiger Basketball art. It could be a basketball that looks like a tiger. It could be, anything really. Or Tigers Team. It could be a jersey. It could be an image. It could be a t-shirt. It could mean a large variety of things. Right? So the context of each keyword matters as well. And what we can see here is with the click-through rate is that validates the context. So if you were to compete for a keyword, what would be the smartest thing to do? Well, your lead keyword term, remember when I said lead keyword term, is something that we want to have as high click-through rates as possible for, while maintaining a higher search volume for on Etsy and on Google. Now, like I said, typically we tend to see Google as Etsy as a microclimate to Google. However, there are outliers. This is something you want to be aware of as well. And here's a perfect example of this. Right here, we have a moderate click-through rate of 12.09%. We have a Google search of 140 search volume, but yet we have 2,974 search volume on Etsy. Right, and so what this means is that there is much more demand on Etsy for this specific keyword, and it's very, very important to learn this and understand this, because now we can understand, okay, where we capped at naturally in terms of success, right? Because at this point, we're going to be capped at 2,970 search visitors, but at the end of the day, if we use this keyword for our business and for our listing, what that really means is that we're going to get a fraction of this, right? But if we take something that goes the other way around, let's go ahead and take this keyword, tiger eyes, for example. We have a keyword that has 3,191 search volume on Etsy, yet 200,000+ on Google. And what that means is that when we create a listing on Etsy, in the beginning, we'll be capped at 3,200. And we're not going to get that full 3,200, but what we will get over time is potentially even more. Why? Because there is this large search volume on Google. Okay, and something to be aware of, guys, with this is that when you're going for keywords, understand that not every keyword is generally equal. That's why it's a little bit better to be a little more specific when you're doing your basic search for your keywords. So for example, if you're selling tiger art, then make sure you write the word tiger art. Don't just write tiger, right? Because there could be a lot of things that are related to tiger, right? Tiger painting, tiger team, tiger eyes, tiger basketball, tiger soccer, whatever the case may be. So that's something you want to be aware of as well. So for example, if I'm selling a homemade wood stove, then I'm going to type in wood stove, right? I'm not going to just type in stove. I'm not going to type in the word wood. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to be specific as to exactly what I'm selling. The next thing I want you guys to be aware of here is this section right here. So we have our tag count. Okay, now tags are very important because with Etsy, tags are a way that Etsy can kind of sift through all the data. And really what that is if you guys have any kind of programming knowledge, is that with tags, they're really created as classifications, almost like if you guys are familiar with arrays. Now, not arrays in coding, not necessarily an array, but it's almost like a library, the best way I could say it, right? And the tag represents a section of the library. And what I call each keyword is I call it a niche. If you guys are familiar with my Redbubble videos, I always say a certain keyword on Etsy is its own niche entirely. And this is a validator to that approach, because if you look here, each keyword, right, tiger's eye and tiger eye, they're two different niches. They're two different categories. Why? Because we can see they have different search volumes and they have different entities within them. Now, could there be some overlap on Etsy? Of course. And when we say overlap, what we generally mean is that, a product can show up for the word tiger eye and could show up for the word tiger's eye, right? It all depends on what the seller ended up tagging. But you want to be aware of this as well, because you want to know what is the search volume of a specific tag, right? And what you could do is you could validate your approach by taking the information from a specific listing, right? And going here to your software and going to your single listing and analyze a single listing within that search volume or that search, right? And so here I'm analyzing a certain listing, and now I can see the tags of that specific listing and the click-through rate for each specific tag. And the reason why this is important, again, is because I can figure out where are the loopholes of my competitors. Where can I win? Where can I see a score? And if you look here, the Redbubble algorithm works on a few things. One of those things is the importance of keywords, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh and explain this again, is that the importance of keywords. And with keywords need to be found in multiple places to fully exert the nature of the keyword. All right, and what I mean by that is you want to go and prove to Etsy and prove to Google, right, that you are essentially the top dog for that keyword, right? So you want to have it in your title, you want to have it in your description, you want to have it in your tags, right? You want to associate that keyword, that lead keyword that you want to rank for, right? And of course, you're going to rank for other adjacent keywords, right? But you want to associate that lead keyword in every aspect of your listing. And so what this software does here is it shows me where that keyword for my competitor is. So generally, the best thing you can do when you're tagging, and specifically for SEO, is as much as possible, the tags, somehow try to include them some way in the title. And you see this a lot on Etsy, is that people, and this looks like it's being spam tagged, or spam titled, but it's really not. And you could see here, it's just a bunch of words with commas, words with commas, words with commas. And really the best approach to do this is to figure out ways that you can create long tail keywords that all fit and all are adjacent and align with a title that contains those tags within the title, okay? Now, what I'm not saying is you have to do it like this every time. Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is the more similarity or the more synonymous that, or essentially the more correlation there is. That's a better word. The more correlation there is between the title of your Etsy product and the tags, the better success you're going to get. And we can see this here in a section here. We can also find it in the description. We could see where our competitor has these loose ends, and we can essentially beat the competitor by slowly to rank above them from an organic perspective, and we're already going to have a edge up or a leg up on the competition. This is how, if you guys saw my last Etsy video on a brand new account with 2 products, I was outranking the whole competition and making sales organically. And I just put up the product, and I never had to worry about anything else associated with it, and it built itself over time. And when you know you're successful with Etsy, what you're really going to start with page views. You're going to start with page visits. Then after that, you're going to start to get a few likes, okay, on your work. And then after that, you're going to start to get a few sales. And what that's going to do is that's going to start creating a cycle. Now, the way you know you're falling off of that cycle is it starts to regress. Maybe you're getting less sales and you get less likes and then less page views. And really what that means is that a new competitor has came into play, and you might want to figure out a different strategy of competition, right? Whether that be updating your listing, whether it be changing your images, something like that associated with it. But there's a lot of data to prove and to go behind this to really kind of see how you can win on Etsy. And the reality is if you take majority of people on Etsy, they're trying to freeball their way through success. And what I recommend is when there's a platform like Etsy that's actually providing us with data, which is unlike most platforms, believe it or not. When there's a platform like Etsy that can actually provide us data, we need to utilize this data. And this data is not necessarily given to everybody on the platform, but what it is given to is the developers. So the people who created the software, they have special access to Etsy's backend. And the backend is, it's access through API, which is essentially a programming scenario where you can connect two softwares together. And so this sales software is connecting to Etsy's backend, where we get to see data that our competitors might not necessarily see, or not necessarily see with the click of a button, that is, right? They could see it by maybe doing a lot of math and doing a lot of handwritten stuff, but for us, we have that at a click of a button, right? We get to see the click-through rates for every keyword, for every listing, for every tag. We get to see all this data that can help us become much, much more successful. If you guys want to learn more about Etsy, let me know. Leave it in the comments down below. And this is something we're actually going really, really hard on in 2022. I didn't think we would because I had other focuses, but, Etsy is an open market. Even though there's a lot of competition on Etsy, if you know what you're doing, you can become very, very successful very, very fast. It's not unheard of for people to do $100,000 in their first year on Etsy. All right, guys, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Bye.